Welcome back to another video. Today we'll be talking about the P2P lending regulation and whether it's more safe to invest on regulated P2P lending platforms. We'll also be looking at the requirements for the investment brokerage license that several P2P marketplaces applied for. My name is Jakub from P2P Empire, and if you're new to this channel and your goal is to become a more educated P2P investor, consider subscribing and also hit the like button to see more content like this in the future. So this video is basically a summary of the most important takeaways from our research about the P2P lending regulation, where we sent a list of questions to several P2P players. Note that the regulation is still being determined and certain aspects need to be yet finalized by the regulator. So first, we will dive deeper into the investment firm brokerage license before we will be talking about the license for crowdfunding platforms like Estate Guru. If you have been following the news in the P2P lending space, you know that several P2P lending marketplaces applied for the investment firm brokerage license in Latvia. This license should improve the credibility of services that particular platforms provide. 5 P2P players applied for this license back in spring 2020. Those platforms are Mintos, Peerberry, Via Invest, Viventor, and Debitum. So far, none of the platforms managed to obtain the license, and some of the P2P platforms expect to get it before July 2021. This is not necessarily the fault of the applicants, but rather the slow implementation process by the regulator. I would like to emphasize that the regulation is still in progress and much information in this video has been verified by lawyers that are helping the platforms to get this license. So the European Crowdfunding Service Provider License, or ECSP, consists of 2 levels, the European level and the national level. On the European level, the rules are being determined by the European Securities and Markets Authority as well as Markets in Financial Instruments Directive. Those laws are then forwarded to the national regulators like the Financial Capital Market Commission in Latvia. This authority is also the organization who is giving out the investment brokerage license. That is basically the European crowdfunding license on the national level. So the goal of this license is to increase the protection of investors as well as increase the quality and transparency of P2P lending platforms. Here are some of the requirements that the platforms need to fulfill in order to get the license. The P2P marketplace needs to raise the minimum equity capital to €125,000, and according to our knowledge, the equity cannot be decreased after the platform has obtained the license. Also, the P2P players' AML procedures are being verified by the regulator. Within this audit, the shareholders as well as the management will be checked for AML rules. If you are new to P2P lending, AML stands for anti-money laundering. We have found out that even the lending companies on the marketplaces will need to comply with all the AML procedures. In addition to this, P2P lending marketplaces will need to hire an AML officer, compliance officer, as well as an internal auditor. The exact AML and KYC rules are yet unknown. However, we know that the regulator is also checking borrower's verification and client risk scoring procedures. Every investor will need to fill out the KYC form, which stands for Know Your Client form. That includes information about the source of funds, investors' experience in investing, and whether the investor is a politically exposed person. Every investor will also be presented a key investor information sheet, which will be a more detailed overview of the investment type and P2P lending as an asset class. The AML stage is without a doubt the largest stage in the whole regulation process, and the exact list of requirements is not publicly available as the marketplaces pay a lot of money to their lawyers to make sure that their requirements are fulfilled. What's certainly worth mentioning is the change of the business model. Right now, the business models of P2P marketplaces were quite straightforward. The marketplace listed the loans from the individual loan originators on the platform, and you as an investor are going into a loan agreement with the lending company. For every investment you make, you can view a custom loan agreement which you can find in your investor's account. This setup should change as platforms will be creating a special purpose vehicle which will act as the issuer of financial instruments that you will be able to invest into. The SPV will be owned by the platform and act as another instance between the loan originators and the P2P marketplaces. The exact details of this setup are still not publicly available. However, you can read some additional information on Mintos, where the marketplace teased the issuance of notes. Another stage of the licensing process is the audit of internal procedures and policies. Within this stage, the marketplace needs to submit information about the company's procedures, including the balance sheet, audited financial statements, description of internal policies, information about the organizational structure, business plan for the next 3 years, business continuity plan, strategies to avoid insider trading and market manipulation, as well as procedures to avoid conflict of interest. Regulated platforms are also required to disclose default rates and potentially limit the maximum investment amounts of investors. Their exact rules for the investment limits are, however, still being determined. Many of those documents will be also required by the lending companies that list loans on the marketplace. The regulator will inspect every lending company before granting the license. We have also found out that every loan originator needs to be separately approved by the regulator. During the whole licensing process, the marketplaces are required to send monthly reports to the regulator, and those reports include information about investors, loan originators, new employees, borrowers, changes in the management, and changes in procedures or terms and conditions. Another important change for the investors is also the 20,000 euro protection scheme for regulated platforms. According to our sources, this protection fund is here to cover your investments of up to 20,000 euro on P2P marketplaces that are regulated under the law of Latvia. The exact details of how this fund is going to be financed are being currently negotiated. As this data is not official yet, our source asked us not to disclose any further information on this matter. It's also yet unknown in which exact scenario you will be refunded for your losses. So those are the main takeaways on the regulation process for P2P marketplaces. As you might know, however, there are some additional players in the industry that originate loans that are backed by certain securities like a mortgage. One of the most regulated players is certainly Estate Guru. The platform does its own research in every country where they decide to launch. If there is a crowdfunding license, Estate Guru is immediately applying for it. The platform is currently licensed in Lithuania by the Lithuanian Central Bank and in Finland by the Financial Supervisory Authority. In Estonia, Estate Guru is self-regulated and supervised by the Financial Supervisory Authority of Estonia. In Germany, the platform collaborates with a partner that has a banking license, and in Spain as well as in Latvia there is no crowdfunding license, which means that Estate Guru is not licensed but applies the same principles as in any regulated markets. According to Estate Guru, the transition time for the European crowdfunding service provider license starts from the 10th of November this year, so as soon as the license is out, Estate Guru is applying for it. This will make the expansion in many European countries much easier. So this has been a very detailed video about the current status of the P2P lending regulation process in Europe. Note that certain business models such as investing in rental deals or marketplace for business loans don't fall under the typical local crowdfunding license in every country. That's at least something that Evo Estate and Reinvest24 told us in the latest P2P talks. Especially in the case of Evo Estate, you should check the licenses of the project originators, as Evo Estate is just a middleman and not the originator of those deals who assess the credit score and deal with the debt collection. Now, you might be wondering whether investing on regulated platforms is more safe than investing on unregulated platforms. Well, it is certainly more safe. As we have presented in this video, the P2P platforms are going through several stages where they need to show that they are compliant with many rules and requirements. The P2P lending license will certainly decrease the chance of scams and fraudulent players in the industry. On the flip side, platforms will collect more data about the investors and the sign-up process will likely be more frustrating. It's also possible that due to the stricter implementation of AML rules, certain platforms will no longer accept investors from certain countries. As the investment risk on regulated platforms decreases, the demand from investors will increase, which can lower the interest rates. And that's certainly something that you should keep in mind. The decrease of interest rates can also be justified by additional expenses for regulated P2P marketplaces. If you appreciate the research behind this topic, leave a like and also feel free to comment below how the P2P lending license will influence your investments on individual platforms. And that's it from me today. Thanks for watching and I will catch you in the next video.